Today in class we're looking at graphing lines. For our last time we're just going to review all three of our forms real quick and simple. First form we had was slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. M of course is the slope. Our b right here is our y-intercept. This is where the form gets its name. Y-intercept 0, b. That's because wherever our line crosses the y-axis right here, the x-coordinate is always 0. It all just depends on how high up or how low our line crosses. So if it crosses up here, our x-coordinate is still 0, but maybe it's at like 5. Well, down here, x is still 0, but it might be at -5. And that's what controls it right here. So if I have my slope-intercept form, my slope, m, is always connected to x. So in this case, it's 3, and slopes rise over 1, we could put 3 over 1. Our y-intercept b is a number that's attached that doesn't have x. So in this case, the -7. Writing it as a coordinate point, we get 0, -7. They might try to trick you on slope-intercept form, and they might give you one that looks like this. Just because the 10 is written first does not mean it is the slope. Slope is always with x, so in this case 2 over 1. Our y-intercept is always being added or subtracted on with our variable, so that's the 10. And there we have it. If I wanted to graph one of these lines, say -2/3 x plus 2, my y-intercept is 0, 2, because of that number right there. 0 on the x-axis, so I don't go anywhere. 2 on the y-axis. There's our starting point. And then we move based on this. So down and right. And there's our line. Point slope form. Y minus y1 is equal to m x minus x1. It also has slope m. The slope is always in front of our parentheses right here. And then we're given a point. Not necessarily our y-intercept, not necessarily an x-intercept, just some random point on the line. So if I were to graph this line right here, this dot is our y-intercept, this dot is our x-intercept, but our point slope form might tell us this dot that's on the line. Just a random dot somewhere out there on the coordinate plane. We could also be talking about this dot. And so that's why it gets the denotation of x1, y1. It just wants what's your x-coordinate, what's your y-coordinate of that random dot. Two things to remember about this point. It has to be the opposite sign that it is up here in the equation. So notice here that that's clearly a negative x1, but we list it as a positive. Negative y1, positive. The other thing is x goes with x, and it has to be listed first. So if I had this point slope form, my slope is 2/5. It's always the number in front of my parentheses. But then the point that we're looking for would be this one for x, this one for y, but they'd have to be the opposite sign. So instead of a +4, -4. Instead of a -3, a +3. We'll go one more like that. Y plus 5 is equal to -2, x minus 3. So our slope, -2 right here. Our point, we take the 3, it goes first. We take the 5, it goes second, and there it is. If I want to graph one of those lines, we do the exact same thing we just did on those problems. I grab my slope, -5/2. So that's telling me how my line is going to be slanted. And now I need to know where it is on the graph. So I need my point, -4, 5. So -4 on the x, 5 on the y puts us here. And now that we know where the line is going to cross through, we know our line is right here. Last one we have is standard form. Standard form is ax plus by equal to c. A, b, and c are all just numbers. Unfortunately, they're not slopes, they're not points, they're just numbers. We ended up using a new technique where we're going to plug in 0 for x and 0 in for y into our equation and see what it spits out, a lot like an input-output table. X-intercepts always have 0 on the right. Y-intercepts have zeros on the left. So if we kind of look at this, when we get a number for y, we have a y-intercept. When we get a number for x, we get an x-intercept. And that's the process we're going to do. So I have 2x plus 3y equals 6, 0 and 0. Plugging 0 in for x cancels that out. I divide both sides by 3. And so what we just found right here is our y-intercept. I plug 0 in for y. I'm left with 2x equals 6 and x equals 3. That right there is our x-intercept. Graphing our standard form, we use that same process. So let's say I have -4x plus 5y equals -20. 0 is going to go in for x. Gives us 5y equals -20. Divide both sides by 5. And y is -4. That's our y-intercept. That means this point is going to land somewhere on this line, down 4. I plug 0 in for y. That gets us the exact opposite side of this, so it gets -4x equals -20. We divide by -4, x equals 5. That point is our x-intercept. It's going to land somewhere on this line. 5, 0 is right there. Connect the dots, and we're done.